Hello to anyone that might be watching this. This is a drunken review on a Tozando Iaito. Now here's some specs on the blade if you're interested in that kind of stuff, and also keep in mind that these are my own personal thoughts and they're not worth a whole lot to anybody, mostly my wife. Moving on. I don't know how you move on from that actually, it's kind of a dark start. Sorry about that. What I'll say is that this is my personal Iaito, and I've used it for about the last year, pretty intensively, maybe a little longer. It's also about 12 years old before I got it. Well, I don't know how old it is, but it's old anyway, so keep that in mind as you're looking at the things that are wrong with it. What I will say about it, in terms of the goodness, is just how it looks. These are somewhat custom. I don't know if they're off a production line, but in a nutshell, you can see that it's got this really awesome Ishime saya with this kind of dental grooved in thing, and I think it's groovy. And then it's got some gloss black near the top of the saya and the koiguchi. Koiguchi sounds like a dirty word, but I can tell you it, well actually it might be, I don't really speak Japanese. Now the Ito shows some signs of handling, but it's not really that bad if you consider the age and the intensity with which I work it, baby. No, well, I don't necessarily work it quite that hard, but it's held up very well. It's not all frayed and messed up, and some of the blackening on the copper near the kashira has started to come off, as well as on the fuchi, and the tsuba, has got some dings in it, but overall, I'm really impressed with how well it's held up over time for me. It has shown all the standard signs of aging, nothing unexpected or bad, and I think it's taken that time and that age and that handling very well, all things considered. Moving on to some of the other fun stuff. You can see that it has a copper seppa. It's copper. Hooray. And it's got a brass abaki. Brass. Hooray. Here's some more close-ups of the rattan wrap next to the Ishime saya with the groovy dental thing. The thing I'd really draw your eye to, though, is this. This is the koiguchi, or the giggity giggity gucci, and in a nutshell it's held up very well. Sometimes they crack and get messed up, but despite the temperature changes and age, it hasn't. So kudos to this thing. Now we'll talk about the blade, and it's staberific. Also, you can see that it has this double wire-brushed hamon that makes me super hamony, baby. That was stupid, but I had to throw it in there. What I will say, though, is that it has this neat wire brush effect. Now, it's still wire brushed, so it lacks some of the zazz that you might see in a more traditionally manufactured blade. But the fact that they took time to try and throw some extra beautification on it is appreciated and noticed. You can see a little bit better the wear that has happened in the Ito, but the blade that I've had hasn't necessarily shown any signs of handling, even though I get stroked regularly. That's part of the maneuvers that you're supposed to do, so don't take that the wrong way, even though I kinda said it the wrong way. I also don't necessarily like how the bohi starts in this. You can kinda see that it just looked like their drill bit kind of started there. I don't know if that's necessarily traditional or not, but near the kasaki, the termination of the bohi is a little bit better, but kind of where it starts and how it starts isn't necessarily great. This is made out of some sort of zinc aluminum alloy, though, so it's a little bit rigid and a little bit heavier than a basic plain only aluminum blade would be, but it doesn't rust or require cleaning, and it's also not sharp. Maybe I should have mentioned that earlier. Iaito are not generally sharp. In fact, I think it's emphatically stated in the name that it's not sharp. It's pointy, but it's not sharp, and generally speaking, most of the Iaito that you would find are made out of some sort of aluminum substance, so they don't rust. Here's the Nakago, though. It doesn't look very pretty. Not terribly impressed. In fact, the Suka core is not something I'm terribly impressed with. Now, I can't say if this is from the manufacturer, but it seems like it is, and frankly, it's kind of janky. The shape of the Nakago is a little janky, and how it fits inside the Suka core is a little janky. Now, it holds up well enough, but the Suka is cracked as well, so maybe the janky shape and shims had something to do with it. I don't know if this passed inspection or not, but, well, whatever. It's not great, though. What I'm doing now is moving the blade around so that you can see the blade moving around, which is why I'm moving it around. I feel like an asshole when I do this stuff, and I'm not trying to do Iaito for you. What I'm trying to do is show you a basic gist of how the blade moves. Do I look like an asshole? Yes, I acknowledge that, but hopefully for the folks that wanted me to do this so you could see how the blade moves, you feel satisfied in my level of moving the blade aroundness. Minnesota problems. What I'll say about the blade's handling is that it's really very comfortable. I've had a few different Iaito, and I'll go into that later on, but the Iaito that I've had out of all of them, this is my favorite. It's not only my size and the dimensions I like, but it feels really good in the hand. And for how old it is, I'm actually pretty fucking impressed is the word I'm trying to say before it tripped out of my mouth and fell down the stairs. Impressed is what I would say. It holds up really well, it feels really nice, it has a nice distal taper, the shape is really good, and it all translates to something that's comfortable in my hand. Subsequently, it doesn't fall out very easily. You can see that I can shake it around a little bit and it doesn't fall out. No, that doesn't mean it won't. If you shake it hard enough, it will, but not easily, and I'm impressed with that given the age. Anyway, listen to some whipping sounds. My experience with my Iaito from Tozando has been very good, but I did get a chance at a seminar recently to see a different Tozando blade that hasn't held up as well. Some of the plating on the mune has come off, as well as come off near the kasaki. Now, the remaining parts of the blade are all great. They've held up really well, and this is a blade that likely gets used a lot more than it does for me because it's used by somebody that practices a lot. The point is, though, that despite its frequent use, I think it's a little bit odd that I'm seeing a blade from Tozando that's kind of a nicer one that's, got some plating that comes up. So I'd keep that in mind. Now, I didn't really know that that was a thing, and that's why I thought I'd include it in here. I'm not trying to knock on Tozando, but it is a possibility and something I'd say should stay at the forefront of your mind of things that can go wrong. So how about a comparison? I've had a Tori Iaito from Hanwei, some unknown craps from eBay, there's two of them, a Hanwei Musashi Iaito, one from Shobunaya on eBay, and then this Tozando Iaito. And you can see the comparison here. In a nutshell, I think that the suka and shape of the Tozando is probably the best that I've had. Now, the Tori Iaito from Hanwei was pretty comfortable, but that had more to do with the material of the Ito than the actual shape itself. So far, the Tozando has been the winner in terms of the shapes that I've felt and the materials and how they've held up. In terms of how they've held up on the Koiguchi, again, that's not the dirty word. There's nothing that really sets it apart from anything, but, it's held up really good, and the fact that it's as old as it is and still holds the habaki is impressive. Haven't had that on necessarily any of the others, but I didn't use them that much. Now, the blade looks similar to everything else, and there's not a lot that necessarily sets it apart. There's that fancy double hamon, but the others have goofy bohis, and they also have some goofy hamon things going on. So there's nothing except for really the distal taper and the overall shape is what makes it feel great. In addition, in terms of it being aluminum, it doesn't look bad when you compare them to the others. So overall, I'm going to say that the Tozando is pretty awesome. Now, it goes anywhere from $300 to $1,700 on their website. This one would be somewhere towards the middle of that. It's worth it, though, at least if you're a practitioner that wants the feel of a really nice Iaito for practicing and using, and it's a part of your life. Now, if you have that much money to spend and you're talking about $1,700, there's a lot of other good options in terms of custom blades or shenken or really traditionally made blades. So I'd say think about that, but I'm not really regretting the money. I think it's a good value and I think it's a solid blade. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this useful or entertaining.
Well, I shake it like this. Oh no, my dinger, it gone done got. No, I'm fine. My dinger's fine. Thanks for checking. Okay.